What's up everybody, Troll here. Today I'm going to show you how to write unit tests for your domain-driven design application. Of course, the concept of unit test doesn't depend on any architectural style, architectural pattern, methodology. You can apply the concepts and terms you are going to learn here to any type of your application, like service-oriented application, microservice application, classical layered application, any type of application you can apply it. In the context of domain-driven design, I'm going to show you how to write unit tests for your domain-driven design application. As domain-driven design application, I am going to use the real DDD, CQRS, and clean architecture GitHub repository from my Git. Just go to github.com, Suleimani, and here we have the real DDD, CQRS, and clean architecture. In our previous tutorial, I explained all the concepts related to this GitHub repository. Just from my YouTube channel, just find the exact video. I will add it here also. And for our README file, I added a special section called Watch and Learn. It will help you to understand the internal concepts related to our GitHub repository. Of course, I'm going to add more videos. Right now, I have the exact videos related to this repository. These videos will help you to understand the concepts, patterns we applied for our GitHub repository in more detail. I just cloned our GitHub repository and removed the internals related to tests because I want to show you everything from scratch. Now, let's get started. Here in our application, we have source and tests folder. As you might see, the tests folder is completely empty. I'm going to right click, add new project, and from new project, I'm going to select XUnit test project. Why XUnit test project? It is completely okay to use any type of testing framework. I really love working with MSTest, with NUnit, and I have used these frameworks throughout my career. But in the last few years, I'm actively using XUnit. That's why I am going to show you everything using XUnit. But the general concept is completely same for all type of frameworks. Now let's select XUnit. And from here, I'm going to rename our application like company name dot project name dot the exact context. This is our basket bounded context, and my favorite one is to call it tests.unit. Why? Because the tests.unit will show you that this is the exact unit testing project. Okay, you may see like unit tests naming convention. It is also completely okay, but my favorite one is tests.unit. Now let's change our location, and yeah, let's use our tests folder. Let's hit next, and from the framework, let's select .NET 8. You can select .NET 9. That's completely okay because the concept of testing doesn't depend on any framework. Now let me just remove our unit tests, and now let's start from scratch. For what type of classes you should write unit tests? You should focus on business logic testing when you write unit tests. What is a unit test? Unit testing is a software testing technique where individual components or unit of software application are tested in isolated to verify that the function is expected, working as expected. So long story short, you have a functionality like in our basket, for example, we have tons of methods here. Why? Because we are using rich domain model. Here, for example, we have add item, we have basket creation, we have update item count. This is a single method, update item count, but it has multiple units. I should check if it is possible to verify ensure key exists. I should create another test for ensuring non-null. I should create another test to check if update is valid. So these are our units. Inside one method, you may have multiple units, multiple unit of work. One method may have multiple unit of works. That's why you have one-to-many relation between your method and units. Let's create a separate class for testing our basket. Right click, add, and class, and let's use the naming rule like basket tests. This is also my favorite one. Okay, let's make it public, and public void create. Why I use public? Because your methods should be public. Why I use void? Because your unit test methods should not return any value. And the first part of naming rule is going to be your exact method which you are going to test. The create indicates that inside our basket we have create method. I'm going to test it. The second part is when I'm going to use exact function name, when should pattern here. So when all arguments are valid, should create, or then create basket. It is also okay for our naming rule. Okay, this is our method. I have baskets create method. Let me show you inside our basket. Let's go to dependencies, add project reference, and from here, let's add our domain. In our domain, we have basket. For our basket, we have create. Let's from the quick actions, add our using stuff and create. Inside our create, we are creating our basket. I'm not using our constructor. It is private, so you should not test your private methods. Always focus on testing your public methods. Always focus on testing your exact contracts, visible contracts. Now for my basket, I have two arguments. I have tax percentage, I have customer. Now I have decimal tax percentage equal to, for example, 16. And I have customer. Let's create customer. You see, we don't have direct customer creation. We have factory method over our customer. Customer dot create is elite member. It doesn't mean anything for us right now. We are just focusing to create our customer, and maybe for the ID, let's create ID customer dot new. That's how we are creating our customer. And let's provide our values here. Tax percentage, of course, tax percentage, and customer. It should create our basket. Okay, basket. And let's check if everything is okay. Assert not null basket. This is a simple implementation. I really don't prefer using tests in this way. That's completely okay from the technical perspective. Why I don't prefer using this approach? Because our main focus is creating a basket. But the basket is a complex object. It may consist from subcomplex objects like customer. Customer may consist from another complex object. And your focus is creating the exact basket rather than creating its internals. That's why we should encapsulate the customer creation. The second stuff here is the tax percentage. I'm checking, for example, 16, but I may have different values. Based on these different values, the system may vary. The system may have different behaviors. That's why using the exact magic values is also not okay. For our unit test, we always have 3A approach. The first is arrange. The arrange is a preparation step. For example, I'm preparing my tax percentage, I'm preparing my customer. This is my arrange stuff. The second is act. The act, the exact method call. In our basket, we have create. I want to check baskets create. That's why when I call basket create, it is going to be our act section. And the last one is, of course, the assertion section. I will not use assert because I don't like using assert. It is not readable for me. And the last few years, people actively using functional approach for assertion like Fluent Assertion. And I'm going to use Fluent Assertion also. But now let's focus if everything is working or not. When you add fact attribute, you see in our test explorer, we'll have one method because right now I have one method. From the test explorer, you can open the same exact window. Now let's run our test. For the first time, it will take some time, but for the next times, your testing should run really, really fast. Let's see. That's great. The green icon indicates that everything is okay. Now let's focus to make this testing process really easy, to make the more readable test, to make more reusable test. That's why I'm going to create another folder here. Add folder. It is going to be test factories. And inside test factories, I'm going to create another class called customer factory. The purpose of customer factory is to create customer. You may say that we already have customer factory. Inside customer, we have created. This is also factory method parent. Yes, but for testing purpose, I want to isolate me from the customer internal creation process. That's why I'm creating a public static method and public static customer. Let's call it the create factory method over factory. Cool. Now let's return customer dot create. The customer creation, the easiest way to implement it, just copying stuff from here and paste it here. For all type of arguments, I'm going to provide the nullable value. Okay, great. If is elite member is null, I am going to use the magic value from a separate project. I'm going to create another one, right click, add new project. And from the project, I'm going to use class library. Oops, I've just copied it. Let me just copy the path from here. Okay, right click, add new project, and from the project, let's class library. Next, let's paste our path. This is our tests, and let's use the same naming rule. The company name, the project name, the bounded context name, the tests, the data. We'll use this test data for our integration test, for our unit test, or you may separate them. That's also completely okay. Now let's create this project and remove this class from here and right click, add new project. And from the class, let's call it customer data. Okay, for the customer data, I'm going to provide public static is elite member. This is our boolean value. It should be equal to false. Okay, this is false, and let's add reference to our test. This is our test data. Great. Let's go to customer factory and use customer data that is elite member. In my case, I will use using static and simply customer data is elite member like this. That's great. For the ID, I'm checking if ID is null, then let's use the same approach. Public static ID. Come on, ID. We don't have reference. Let's add our reference to our domain. That's great. And let's provide our customer. Come on, customer. Great. Now let's provide reference to our ID. Customer ID equal to ID customer, or you can provide any static value, just convert from GUID. That's also completely okay. And I'm going to provide customer ID. That's how we are using our factory method for testing purpose. Let's remove all these namespaces from here and from here also. Great. And using my test factories, I will create our customer easily. I'm not going to focus the exact customer creation because my purpose is create basket rather than creating customer. For the tax percentage, I will use approximately same stuff, but I want to test tax percentage with different values. That's why I don't want to use fact. I want to use theory with inline data because I want to provide multiple values like 45, like 16, I don't know, 4. We are accepting argument for our tests. That's why if you have only one argument, you should provide the exact argument from here. Decimal tax percentage. Okay, tax percentage. We already have this tax percentage. We provided it to this value. That's great. For the arrange, I'm going to use a better naming like decimal expected tax percentage, for example, equal to tax percentage. Okay. And at the end, I will assert it like this. Let's just use our Fluent assertion tools, NuGet package manager console. And from the package manager console, let's select our exact test unit and install package Fluent assertions. Okay, let's install our Fluent assertion. I really love this library. It has functional based approach for asserting elements. The basket should be not null, and for baskets tax percentage should be expected tax percentage. That's a better assertion rather than using classical assert. Now let's run our test and see if everything is working. You see we have arrange, act, assert. Always try to use this subsectioning inside your unit tests. Let's wait. And voila, everything is working. Now let's test it from the negative perspective. I mean, let's see if the basket creation can throw an exception or not. In my case, when I create a basket, I have tax percentage, I have customer. For the basket, I am redirecting it, delegating it to the basket, exact basket. And you see, we have ensure positive. Ensure positive is my extension method. And for this extension method, we are throwing invalid exception. This is our validation exception. That's why I'm going to create another method because your unit tests mostly should cover the unexpected cases. Public void create when tax percentage is negative should fail. Okay, should fail. Let's apply the same stuff here. I'm going to use theory because I want to provide arguments for the inline data. I'm going to provide multiple values like inline data, inline data -3. That should be okay. Now let's use our decimal tax percentage. Let's call our basket dot create. Before it, let's use the templating like arrange, act, and assert. Okay, for arrange, I am going to construct my customer tests factory, test factories, customer factory, create. Let's create our customer. customer. Okay, that's our customer creation. Let's call our basket that create. Let's provide our tax percentage, our customer. That's great. And when we create our basket, it should throw exception, and catching it in action part will not be possible. That's why I'm going to use special delegate called action act. Okay, and let's just simply call action should throw exactly, not through, but through exactly. This is our validation exception from work consulting. Okay, that's it. That's how you should test your exceptional cases. Um, Here, when you provide inline data, for every inline data, you will have one unit test. And that means if you have three inline data, you will have three tests. Let's see inside our basket test, we have five tests, three for the first one, two for the second one. Okay, let's just simply run it and wait for our response. Well, that's all. That's how easily you can write tests for your method. As a homework, you should implement all the test cases. The constructor is also a method. So showing one example, I hope will be enough for you to test. If you want to test update item count, you should make sure that ensure key exists is tested properly, ensure not null tested properly, update count tested properly. It would be better to test domain events at the end. You have an artifact for your method and it is your event. That's why it would be better to check if the raising the event possible or not. For success cases, for the failed cases, you can just use the action template I have demonstrated here. And if you want to learn more about our test examples, just go to our GitHub repository, clone it, and inside our tests, I approximately implemented all possible testing cases, especially for basket. You see, in our basket, we have all possible test cases. But before checking these, try to implement all possible functionality unit tests and then compare your exact implementation with mine to make sure that you understand unit testing. Well, that's pretty much all. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and I'll see you in the next tutorials. Bye.